Welcome back to the audience, the one and only Pisa Timmy, to introduce our second panel. Thank you.
Hi. Wow. I was just talking, but nobody was hearing. I hope you guys are not tired of me yet. No? Thank you. Thank you. So this panel is for founders. So we're calling it the Founders Diary. I tried so hard not to call it Founders Connect. So it's Founders Diary. And we're going to have two amazing founders who are building at kind of like the intersection between the UK, Europe ecosystem and the African ecosystem. And so we have Victor, who is the CEO of Raenest. Hi, Victor. Do you want to come on stage, please? Please give him a round of applause as he comes in. And we also have Anthony, who is the co-founder and CPO at Verto FX. Thank you so much for that energy. So for the next 30 minutes, I want to do a deep dive into their stories, right? They're building fantastic companies and they're doing really well. So before we talk about the milestones, why did they even decide to solve the problem that they're solving? What has been the challenges? How did they raise money? How are they thinking about building their teams, expansion? We'll see how much we can cover in the next 30 minutes. But mostly, I hope you guys enjoy the conversation. And if anyone's a founder here, I'm sure you can relate to some of the things that they would share. And if you're looking to be a founder, then this will be a very inspiring conversation. Hi, Anthony. Hi, Victor. How are you guys doing?
Doing well, are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
Awesome. You guys look really good. So I'm going to keep doing this and this. Who has watched the challengers here? There was a scene where she kept going like this. That's what I'm doing now. Okay, so Victor, we're going to start from you. Tell us a little bit about Raenest in 1 minute. So what is Raenest and why did you decide to solve that problem?
All right. I will start from where I decided to build Raenest. So for me, my life has been around software development and product management. I've been doing that for almost 10 years now. And 70% of my career has been as a freelancer based in Lagos, but working with companies outside Nigeria. And during that period, I can say getting paid was actually more challenging than the work itself. Because every time I have to send invoices to my clients, to my employer, if there is delay in sending that invoice, payment will be automatically delayed as well. There are times they'll say, Victor, we can't pay into your Nigeria bank accounts. How can we go about it? So I have to look for someone in the United States, collect their account number, give it to my employer, so they will pay him, and he will look for a way of getting it down to Nigeria. Then while working with Andela, we have a Slack channel called Sell It. Well, there were over 2,000 engineers there, and whenever a new member joins, 3 questions always pop up. How can I get paid faster? My employer cannot pay into a Nigerian bank account, so I need to open a domiciliary bank account. And for you to open a domiciliary bank account in Nigeria, you need like 2 people that can sign for you, and that can take up to like 2 weeks. Then I started looking into it. This is a major problem that nobody is solving for. I think the focus has been on Africa in diaspora, sending money back to their friends and family, but nobody is looking into this issue. So I started researching how can this be solved efficiently, and then apart from the freelancers, who are the other set of users having that challenge. And if I decide to use the domiciliary bank account, at the end I realized that close to 15% of my salary has gone into the cross-border payment fee and the unfavorable exchange rate. So let's build Raenest to be able to handle it and provide a way through which remote workers and freelancers in Africa can get paid in minutes or hours, and they don't have to wait for like 4 to like 5 days. And that's why we started Raenest. And what are we doing at Raenest? We are making it seamless for African freelancers and businesses to be able to manage their global receivable and expenses seamlessly. So if you are someone based in Lagos, in Ghana, you can sign up on Raenest, and we give you a US bank account in your name or a UK bank account in your name. We are just localizing the payment. So rather than payment going across the border, you're in Lagos, but we are connecting you to global banking system.
Amazing. Thank you very much. So tell us about Verto FX.
Sure. So Verto is what we call a B2B cross-border payment platform. What we try to describe is similar to what Victor was talking about, but we focus on just businesses that are trying to connect themselves to the rest of the world. Background similar to Victor, I was working in banking for like 9 years or so. I decided to do something with my life, basically. So part of it was you think you're good at what you do, but what's the future, right? So I met my co-founder playing poker maybe like 10 years before, and we became friends and so on. Fast forward to, I think it was 2016. Over a game of poker, I was asking him, what are you doing now? He said, oh, I'm going to quit my job. It's like, oh, me too. Why? I want to start something new. And usually in that group of poker friends, like we always say, we're going to quit our jobs. So it's always like, yeah, I will see you next month. Next month, fast forward, he actually quit his job, started doing Remingtons, which is the opposite of what Verto was saying. So he was trying to power African diasporas, sending money back to Nigeria and so on. So I was like, oh, great, that's good. Similarly, I already actually quit my job. So it was like, oh, interesting. Fast forward another 2 months or so, met with him, and we started talking. And then that's when he started telling me about the bigger problem, which is what Verto is today. And that problem was some of his friends back in Nigeria was asking him, can you help me make payments? And these are not remittance payments, these are like business transactions. They're trying to buy cars, they're buying stuff from China, and so on. So I was like, for me, why is there a problem, right? And it's like, it's a big problem because there's a liquidity problem. There is obviously access to a connected banking account that actually can make payment to those countries and so on. So that became something that I got excited about. Around the same time, I was doing my MBA, so I took that as my first project just to research to find out, is it a big deal or not? And came back, and that's why Verto. So to kind of put it simply, Verto is building infrastructures and payment rails that are trying to connect African businesses to the rest of the world. Of course, we are focusing on emerging market as a primary market, but to do this properly, you have to be in the West as well, which is probably why we've done it this way.
Very nice. What has been the most unexpected challenge that you faced building Verto? And I say unexpected because, when you're starting a company, you're building payments, it's hard. There are a few things and hurdles that you come across. But what was something that you're like, I did not expect that this is what I'm going to face by being a startup founder?
I think the most unexpected challenge is probably going to be around compliance. A lot of people here, they probably don't realize that there's a lot that goes behind being able to move money from A to B. We have like fraud, a lot of things around people, like financial, I don't want to say financial crime, but there's a lot of financial crime that's happening through individuals' accounts and business accounts. So when you're building an infrastructure player that is trying to not only build a solution for your customer, you're powering other people as well. The guys, when I say the guys, the assisting, the incumbents, they don't want to do this. The reason why they don't want to do it is because they don't want to go to the granular level of finding the right solution. So as a startup, when you're doing it, they look at you like, are you doing the right thing? So any relationship, any connection you want to have with them is look from the point of view of, are you going to be dodgy or are you trying to do the right thing? So then when you're building for your customer, most customers, they don't actually understand what it takes to do that. So a lot of people, they feel like, oh, I just want my money sent tomorrow. What's the big deal? And for us, it's almost like, I want your money to get there tomorrow, but I want to be open tomorrow as well so that you can use it tomorrow and every day and every day. So that for me will be the biggest challenge.
So compliance. Has it been the same thing for you, or do you have another unexpected challenge you've seen? Because you're in fintech as well.
Yeah. Quite similar, but it has to be because we give someone that can be in Lagos or in Accra a US bank account, right? Getting the banks to be comfortable with banking AfroTech. I think it took a while to get them believe that we have talented people that are having challenge with payment and they are working with US companies. So I think for us it took over a year to get the first banking partner in the United States. So a lot of stories, a lot of back and forth on compliance. Probably an approach that worked was using myself as an example to let them understand the problem and how big it can be for them as well and what can they benefit from it.
And what was your experience? Did you guys have any experience with that as well? Like trying to beyond the compliance of, how do we make sure that people are not using our money to our platform to do fraud and AML? What was it like getting the main authorities and the US people and the UK banking system to say, oh, this is a reputable company, I can actually partner with them in the mission that they have?
Yeah, I think for me and my co-founder, I think the experience that we had at the banking make it a lot easier for at least the way we approached it. So the first thing we did was actually establish in the UK first. So we went through getting a license from the FCA, we went through different licensing to the point that we have what we call EMI license, which is basically a banking license without lending or giving interest on deposit. To do that, you have to show a lot of robustness through FCA. And there's a lot of are you fit as a founder, as the owner of the business? So that for us us to have like relationship in the western part of the world. So we have banking partners in the UK and the US. Now, at that point, they didn't expect us to be doing Africa. We knew what we were going to do, but you have to start. You have to get in the door first, right? So by doing that, it means that we're able to do that first. So when we decided to do Africa, it was like, hey, you guys know us. You've seen the compliance. You can come back and do a check. Now, can we do that market? So they don't look at you from the point of view of you don't know what you're doing. It's like, okay, do you have the right control in place? Do you have the right solution in place? And they, obviously, if you're compliant from that point of view, they will try to onboard you. But it doesn't mean that they will do it straight away. I have a bank now, like Tier 1 bank that we've been talking to for over 2 years. And what most people here probably don't realize is that bank, when it's operational and when we start giving that solution to our customers, every customer expects just us to do the right thing, right? If it takes 2 years to get that bank account, you can lose it in 1 day. So, and losing in 1 day means you have no shop. So basically, that's probably why I would say we're slightly different, because we got lucky in the sense that how we approach it, we approach from the West, have that relationship. So it's a lot easier to get better banking partner, but it's not easy still. So if you imagine if you're an African founder, starting from Africa, it probably take 4 years unless if you have the right relationship and so on.
Interesting. So, I mean, the two questions that I have, right? The first one is, now you're playing across both markets and you're doing the same thing as well, right? You're playing in the West market and playing African market. So what has been the key differences that you've seen? Like, this is how the UK is very different from Nigeria or Nairobi, or basically how the West is very different from Africa. So if you're trying to build a company, can like think properly between which markets that you start from. And then, yeah, I'll let you guys answer the question before I ask the next one. Who wants to go first?
Yeah, I think customers' behavior varies. The way customers, especially on the B2C aspect, which can be challenging dealing with customers. Because we started as a B2C company, that kind of increased the complexity. So customers from Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, there's a way they expect the platform to work, right? They want it to be like, in Nigeria, for instance, if you're sending money from one bank to another, it's instant. US is not instant. So if they send money from US, they expect it to be in the bank account within 2 minutes. US can take between 1 to 2 days, depending on the payment method. So we have to kind of educate users that, payment method in US varies. There is a bank holiday. You can only get paid when during business days. So I think that was the kind of challenge. But in the UK and US, I think a lot of people kind of understand their banking system. So less information we need to pass out to them. When it comes to Nigerian users on the B2C, I think we are kind of more strong on social media. So you have to ensure you manage communication with your users. If there are issues, you update them before you see your name on social media. So that's something we've not seen.
Money on Raenest. I haven't seen it yet.
So that's something we've not seen with customers outside Africa. Kenya seems to be a bit friendly for us when we launched in Kenya, but Nigeria was quite challenging at the initial time. Then when we start supporting users in the US as well, so there's not been. So I think users outside Africa, they kind of have some form of understanding, but they go through your terms and conditions, privacy policy. They pay attention to all those terms and conditions compared to users in Africa.
Interesting. So less work for the businesses to do in terms of education. Is it the same experience for you? Or do you have a different answer?
I would say it's slightly different. For us, user from Africa are actually very, very difficult because we are purely business to business, right? So when we need to onboard a customer, we have to do KYB, KYC, and there's a lot of stuff that goes on like that. And most of these businesses in Nigeria, for example, they're not used to that level of like information that you have to provide. So then they compare you to local guys. They say, hey, but I have an account with this guy. I only have to show my face once. You're like, okay, but can the guy solve your problem? There's a reason why we're doing it. But, so it takes a lot of effort to not just educate them. It's like, even after education, after they've gone through the whole process of onboarding, it's almost like they expect something to happen instantly. Even though they're not used to that experience in international payment, but they expect because local payment is so fast. When you compare to UK, it's a completely different problem for us because the market is very saturated. There's so many other providers that does literally what we do, right? Including local banks. So when you are looking at a customer, they literally compare you to other apps on their phone straight away. And it depends on the stages of those companies. Some of them are a lot quicker to onboard because what they often use is slightly different. Some of them don't have a license, but they're just growing anyway. So you have a lot of competition. So your market is super saturated. So it's not about I have a fancy product. It's literally about you have to build a brand equity whilst you're trying to like onboard the customer at the same time. At the same time, you want to build your product to make sure it actually works. So all of that is I think personally it's more difficult in the UK because the market is big, is huge, but every customer have potential solutions out there. So they're not desperate for you.
So, and you're doing B2B, so you're saying the UK market is harder. You're doing B2C, but you say the African market is harder. But you've started doing B2B as well. So what's your experience in B2B across both markets?
Quite very similar. Widely from the onboarding stage, right? If you're trying to onboard Raenest as a business, we ask for some document like your incorporation documents, UBO. Each UBO has to do verification. So I'm like, oh, why will I have to do my face capture? But that's the requirement for the bank. So we have to do all those things. So those were the challenge in terms of the onboarding aspect. And then getting them to understand that setting up a bank account is not something, setting up a foreign bank account as a company incorporated in Nigeria or in Ghana is not easy. So there are procedure to like follow. I think that was the challenge we had when we started the B2B aspect of our platform. Yeah, on the KYB and then trying to find a balance between compliance and user experience. So how can we make it possible for a business to be able to onboard as fast as possible, but still collect all required documents, do every check that needs to happen? That was something we struggled with for some period, but we were able to find a balance.
Interesting. So you guys have touched a little bit on compliance. You've talked about customer onboarding, education. So now I'm kind of wondering, across all of these touch points, the challenges and the different things you've had to do, what are some of the most pivotal decisions that you have made that has been very beneficial in maybe getting to the next step in your business?
So yeah, for us, I think first would be taking compliance serious from day one. Right. By now, if we're not so serious with compliance, we can have up to 2 million users. But we know probably Raenest will not be existing by now. So what we did from day one was to ensure all users signing up, you've passed through Raenest KYC. So you can sign up on other platforms, they will just ask for your name and you're in. But we will ensure we collect all details required to ensure our relationship with different banks we're working with is intact. So that's something we started about, and then ensuring we are doing transaction monitoring for every payment. We started our maybe second month of Raenest, and then doing screening from point of onboarding. Very expensive, but we are glad we did that.
Everything around compliance and onboarding has been like the biggest thing for you. So even though that has reduced the amount of growth you've had in terms of like scale, it has also been really good in keeping the business intact.
Yeah.
Got it?
I would say for us, it's probably when we first launched in the UK, we focused on SMB, and that allowed us to learn a lot. So you have SMB, they're B2C in a way because most of them is one-man business, two-person business, and so on. So there's a lot of requirements on experience and so on. So we built a lot of products without thinking about like stuff like security or the checkboxes that the enterprise clients needs. So that first 2 years was literally organic growth. We didn't spend money on growing. We didn't do any marketing and so on. Then obviously, as any company, you want to be profitable. You want to start making real money because SME don't spend money. They just make more noise. So we decided to kind of focus on enterprises, and then you realize that enterprise clients are completely a waste of time. As in, it will take you 6 months to onboard one customer. That 6 months, when you get them in the door, it will probably take another 3 months to ramp up. Maybe another 3 months to the point that you're actually seeing the real value. Now, in that period, a lot of things can happen to you. You could have died as a startup, right? So for us, it's almost like you want to make sure you onboard those enterprise a lot faster. So I don't want to be onboarding you for 6-9 months. And to do that for us, our style focus, again, it's like compliance, but more on the security. Because a lot of enterprises, they have like list of stuff they want to check. It could be like your PCI DSX. Like, no, I don't do card. What do I need to be? But they don't care. It's just a checkbox. So we start focusing on that, building that in the background. And for some reason, we got lucky where, again, rather than focusing on enterprise in the UK, we focused on enterprise in Africa. because the problem they face is the same as SMB in Africa, right? So, and the problem is even bigger because they're not moving $10 or $1,000. This is millions of dollars. So they need a company that's super compliant, that understand what they're doing. So it means that some enterprise, we can onboard them in 2 weeks because they're desperate. And the one that take longest because they have someone else they're using, so they're not desperate. So that for us is probably the biggest decision we made because obviously the company grew, we're profitable and so on, but it means that we can continue to pay for SMB without worrying about are you profitable, which, yeah.
So that's so security and ensuring that the length of time it takes to onboard an enterprise customer is like way smaller. That makes sense. So you guys have talked about expanding to different markets, operating in different markets. You also kind of mentioned when you expanded to Kenya, it was different from Nigeria. And in the previous panel, Caleb and Blessing kind of hinted around having a playbook that helps in, market expansion. So I'm wondering, do either of you have a playbook that has worked? Say, hey, when I moved from this country to this country or this continent to this continent, these are the few things that helped us kind of like go in and get adoption really fast.
There is a playbook, but it changes while you play in the game. So it's not one size fits all. And I will give a couple of examples. When we obviously went into Nigeria, we had a good success, organic growth. We didn't do much, and we thought, okay, across Africa is the same problem. There's liquidity problem everywhere. Most of the banking partners or banking in Africa in general, the so-called tier one. If you bring it to UK, they are not tier one, they are tier three in capabilities. So we thought we know what we're doing, let's just take the playbook and go to Kenya. So no, it didn't work that way. We have to play the book again. And part of it is down to the regulators, right? So you have local regulators that, to an extent, the regulation is not black and white. Even though it's written somewhere, but it's not black and white. So it is down to different interpretation. We looked at South Africa as well. South Africa is a big market, but the regulation is completely archaic. It's almost like they don't want anything to happen, even though the requirement is there. So we couldn't plug and play. We have to change the tactics, and part of it is like you have to find local relationship, you want to get into partnership and things like that, just to get yourself established first. So to answer your question, I don't think there's one single playbook that works, at least for us so far. But what we tend to do is you learn from it. So when we actually eventually went into Kenya, we used one of our playbook from Nigeria, which was liquidity play, and that was because we were almost lucky. Around that same time, there was liquidity issue in Kenya. So that was like what we call the league magnet, right? That's how we call customer in. Then we're able to then almost expose our product to them. Now that liquidity problem is not anymore because like the currency has been appreciating for the last 3 or 6 months. So now the other products are much more obvious to the customer because now they're not worrying about FX. So to answer your question, yeah, there's no one play. Yeah.
For us, the first challenge is determining the next country you want to expand to, right? Because there are many countries in Africa. You can decide to go with market size, but what if you have challenge operating it? So what we do is first, we have top 3 countries we want to go into. We have those countries on our sign-up page. So we kind of use that to collect wait lists. So when you try to sign up for Kenya, we just ask a few questions to know what service you want. Is a card? Is a bank account? And we tell you, okay, when we launch in Kenya, we'll let you know. So we look at those records. What's like the wait list from Kenya, from Ghana, from Egypt? So that kind of gives us a sense of our user looking for our products in those countries. Then we start looking into the regulatory landscape. What are the things we need to do to launch? We start talking to our banking partners because for each country, we need to get to a before that. We want to start onboarding customer from Kenya, from Ghana. So we are looking at the country that the regulators and the banking partner will not struggle with approval. So we put that into consideration. Then look at the competitors. What are the way they are solving those challenges? How can we compete there efficiently? And then we saw a lot of people signing up from Kenya. And then we look at Kenya, what are the options? Mobile money is like the fastest way people are getting paid. Wise is doing payment to Kenya, but what's the challenge? Upwork is kind of paying to M-Pesa directly. But the challenge is you can only get those payments into a mobile money. So bank transfer, it's a problem that needs to be solved. What about rates? rates in Kenya, black market and official seems to be very close compared to Nigeria rate. So we can use rate as entry point. So we have to look at speed and then the transaction fee. So that's what we use. And then thinking of who can we partner with to like work. So we kind of use some approach we use in Nigeria as well, but not exactly the same, especially on the messaging, right? Product market fit is kind of different from message market fit. So the way we push our platform in Nigeria is different from the way we communicate with users from Kenya. So we use the first set of people on our wait list. We reach out to them, get them to like sign up, and we're just monitoring their behavior. How frequent are they getting paid? Are they getting paid into mobile money or bank transfer? Okay, mobile money, there is Airtel, there is M-Pesa, which one are they using? And then are they actually retaining funds in the platform, or as it's coming, they are sending it out? So we use those users to like determine the way to go about it. One of the way we acquire customers is community and LinkedIn. So we try those two approaches in Kenya, and it works. So we just stick to it. Same thing when we move to Ghana. Ghana has been kind of growth in Ghana has not been as expected compared to like Kenya. So we are still trying to find out what's wrong, what approach can we use. Yeah.
That makes sense. This is a bit of a big question, so I want you guys to take it or answer it as you hear it. What are your thoughts about the current state of the African tech ecosystem as it is now, and how is that affecting how you're building your business? You want to go first? So what are your thoughts on the African tech ecosystem right now, right? The entire landscape, and then how is that affecting how you're currently building your business?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of more interaction within Africa ecosystem now. It's not just about a particular country now. We have many events that is bringing investors, funders from different parts of Africa together. I think there's more of connections between African markets, and it's been helpful in terms of when you're expanding into new country, because you definitely know 2 or 4 companies that you've met at an event. From them, you'll learn more about the markets when you need to partner as well. So it has made it easy to partner with different companies. I think that's the way we've seen it. And then the relationship as well has been helpful in terms of licensing as well, because you can leverage other fintech companies in those regions, which we've seen that playing out, especially on the cross-border payments, where company A in Nigeria is trying to go to Kenya. They just partner with any top company, maybe likes of Cellulant or other companies that are operating there.
Growing enough that it's much easier for you to gain partners and kind of like connect. Makes sense. What about you?
Yeah, I think it's way better than what it used to be, especially in countries like South Africa, obviously Kenya, Egypt is booming when it comes to the ecosystem right now. Nigeria has been doing well since Andela and Co, all those guys, Paystar came into the scene. But I would say when you think about the rest of Africa, it's still non-existent, and that's the truth. In fact, outside those 5 markets, I'm sure hardly anyone has been to any of those countries, unless if you're going for holiday like Tanzania and so on. So I don't think the ecosystem is where it needs to be, because a lot of the focus has been on those 5 countries. And when you think about it, those 5 countries probably contribute to like 80% of the African GDP. So it makes sense from economic point of view. So I think for me, it's better than what it used to be, but it needs to be better. And I think the way to get better is to get more founders actually building or solving real problem. Personally, I think there's so many copy and paste problem, where what's the new thing that's trending? Before you know, there's 10 founders solving the same problem. We don't need 10 of us doing that. Like, there's so many bigger problems, and I think that's where to come and get ecosystem out there more.
We're right on time, so I'll ask this final question. As a founder, this is not specific to like even your company and what you're currently building, just generally as a founder or even as a player in the African tech, UK African tech, what has been your biggest lesson so far that this is based on your experience, but you think someone else in the audience could potentially learn from? For you, the same question as well. The biggest lesson as an ecosystem player that you're like, oh, this was either shocking or this was really pivotal to me, or if I knew this, I would have done something differently that would have given me like a much better result.
I think the biggest problem is people, actually.
People?
Yeah. Like, I was one of those people where in my head, I can do anything. And as a founder, you figure out how to solve your problem, because at early stage, you can't afford to bring people in anyway. But one thing I realized maybe 6 years down the line is there's certain people that you have to find and you got to pay them early on, or you got to give them the right equity, because those are your 10x like employees. You have one of them, they move barriers for you. But at the early stage, you're looking for people that want to do it for free, like your friends that have no job or something like that. So for me, people is the problem, and it's still the problem today, even though now we can afford to pay more people, but there are more people that, in my experience so far, they talk a good game. Can they actually come in, roll up the sleeves, and do the work? That is very difficult. So you end up having to do a lot of things yourself. And as a founder, it doesn't matter how good you are, you cannot be everywhere. So that's why you need to find those right people, plug them in at the early stage, give them the right equity. Your equity is useless if you're not growing. Like, you can own 100% of your company, it's still going to be the 100% of whatever dollars it is. So give those people, get it buying, get motivation going. And I think for me, I wish I did that properly. Obviously, we know that we're trying now, and there are some 10x companies. I saw people in my company today that I don't even think. I'm like, okay, what are you doing? They give you 10 answers, you're like, just run with it. I don't need to get in, I don't need to be involved. But there's other people that I have to be involved because it's just unfortunate, right? So finding those 10x people for me would have been amazing if we did that from day one.
So the people, what about you?
Yeah, for me, I would say behavioral patterns of users. Even in Nigerian users alone, where we started from, I think we failed to actually segregate different type of users well and see what do they really want. So we have different set of users, studying, putting them in different segments and studying their behavior, and they start optimizing for each user. Category A, these are people that are earning big amount of money, so we can kind of optimize revenue from those users. Category B, they are earning minute but frequently, so we can optimize for numbers of active users from there. I think that's something we started very, very late. If we started earlier, probably we'll have been bigger than this. Yeah.
Awesome. So if I have to summarize, I've heard a lot of things today, which was really fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing. Your last word was figure out, understand your users, right? Understand your user behavior, get the insights, and actually leverage the insight. Because there are people who they invest a lot of money on data and tools, but they don't really spend a lot of time actually like looking at it and using that data to make decisions. So understanding consumer behavior, and then using that to make the decisions and figuring out how to grow from there. And then you also mentioned find your 10x people. They might be expensive, but figure out how to incentivize them with equity or the amount of money that they need so that you can get the people that can help you grow faster versus finding somebody to hire for free. Something else that I think was really important that you both mentioned multiple times was compliance. And this might be very specific because you're both in fintech, but I think there are different ways that regardless of what you're doing, you can think about compliance, right? And finding the right market to get into that makes it easier for you, but also the right people that you can do freedom pop-up for that makes it easy. And then different markets are obviously different, right? So don't feel like you can take the blueprint of market A to market B. You have to play the book multiple times. I think what Victor was saying around like understanding competition, understanding messaging is really important. But when you take it, don't expect that it will just work. Figure out how to play the book multiple times. Thank you very much. This was a very lovely conversation. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Thank you.